Okay, guys, when we get to powers of powers, I had a lot of people yesterday during the quiz call me over. Wait, is this what I do? Do I need to do the rainbow rule? And this is what I want to say to you guys. If you're ever not sure, if you're looking at this problem and you're like, wait a second, do I multiply 6 times 2 and get 12? Do I just leave the 6 alone? Just write it out, okay? Think about what this means. This means, this parentheses, 6yx to the fourth squared. That means we are going to multiply it by itself, okay? If we had an exponent out here of 3, we would write the whole thing again, but luckily it's just a 2. So now think about what this means. I'm going to put a little 1 here, a little 1 here. This is 6 times y to the first times x to the fourth, which of course is x times x times x times x, times 6 times y times x times x times x times x. And we're putting it all together. So think about what 6 times 6 is. That's going to be your coefficient. Y to the first times y to the first. What will that be? X to the fourth times x to the fourth. And guys, guess what? If you're not sure, write it out, okay? It doesn't take too long. X to the fourth is x times x times x times x. And of course, this one is 2. Sometimes that's all you need to do just to remind yourself, oh, that's right. When I multiply with the same base, I wind up adding the exponents, right? So that would be x to the 8th power. Now, the best idea, of course, is not to have to do all that. Is just to remember that when we take powers of powers, we draw little arcs to remind ourselves, and we can put a little 1 here and a little 1 here. And that's how we kind of come up with the rainbow rule name. So this would be 6 as our base, raised to the, and we learned that we really wind up multiplying the exponents. 1 times 2 is 2. So our base does not change, it's still 6. Our exponent is 2. Then we go to our y's. Our y does not change. The exponent does because now it's 1 times 2 is 2. And now we have x. So we still multiply those exponents, and 4 times 2 is 8. Notice we would have gotten the exact same thing this way. It would have just taken us a few more steps. Now this is not the final answer because we can evaluate. We know what 6 to the second power is. So I'm going to be looking for that as your final answer. Moving on to B, the order of operations says, remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, exponents is pretty far up on the list, but before exponents comes parentheses. So we need to figure out this stuff first before we deal with the exponent. Okay? So let's just do this problem. Okay? We have 8 on the top divided by 4 on the bottom. These are just regular old numbers. They do not have exponents. It's just an 8 and a 4 with a bar in the middle that means to divide. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Then we say, well, I know that this is really y to the first, and then I have a y to the third on the bottom. If you need to, you can think, oh, well, this is a y, and this is a y times a y times a y. And I can cancel out this one, and I'm left with y times y on the bottom, which of course is y squared. And that would go on the bottom. But you could have also said, oh, I remember that when dividing, I just need to subtract the exponents, and it stays wherever the bigger one is. So I'm going to subtract 3 and 1, I get 2, and it's going to wind up on the bottom because that's where the bigger exponent is. So y squared, that's a little 2, is on the bottom. So now we have done what's inside the parentheses, and now we're ready to raise it to the third power. That means every single thing is raised to the third power. The 2 is raised to the third power, and the little exponent of, well, actually, let me back up for a second. I think it's sometimes a lot easier for you to put a little 1 here. Just remind yourself, just like we did over here. So if you put a 1 here, you're going to be multiplying 1 times 3. So you're going to get 2 as our base, and then 1 times 3 is 3. You could also think of it as what I was just saying. 2 raised to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2, which of course is 2 to the third power. Okay? On the bottom, we also raise this with our rainbow rule. So 2 is our exponent, and we're raising it to the third power. Remember, powers of powers we multiply. If you are not sure, write it out. This is y times y, and we're doing it 3 times. Y times y and y times y. So clearly we get y to the 6th power. So there's no excuse for missing this because you have multiple ways to write this. You can write it on out, or you can use your rainbow rule. So this is our answer, except we haven't simplified. So we need to raise 2 to the third power. That's going to be our numerator, and then our denominator will be y to the 6th.